don't you love antitrust? You say, what?
No, it's great. Go ahead.
Thank you for holding this hearing. So I heard you say, Professor Alford, that vertical integration, when we're talking about the digital advertising, it's not how we usually think about vertical integration in the, say, in the antitrust case where the refinery owns the gas stations. So that's so much easier to understand than vertical integration, if there's such a thing even in the digital space. Can you explain a little bit more why there's such a tremendous conflict and what's going on in digital advertising?
Yeah, happy to do that. Thank you for the question. So again, this is a situation where you have multiple monopoly practices going on. You have unbelievable power with respect to the information that is provided to make the ads targeted advertisements. You have monopoly power with respect to the publisher side. So if you're going to try to offer your services, a publisher has to pretty much use a Google broker. And then you have extraordinarily high shares in the exchange in the middle. And then you also have just unbelievable power on the buy side, on the advertiser side. And then above and beyond all of that, then you have their own owned and operated products like search and like YouTube, where if you want to use YouTube and do digital advertisements on YouTube, you have to use Google broker products. And so as a result of that, because of the multiple layers of control that they have, they can basically steer people to Google products, and they can charge prices across the stack to their advantage. And equally important, they can use information over here and take that information and use it over here and basically arbitrage the information and the price that they're going to adjust. So it's not just insider trading where they're using it for their own advantage. They're using that insider information for the opposite side of the transaction's advantage. And so it's a really, really unusual environment, and we just don't see that in auction markets. Can I also make one final comment in responding to Todd Henderson? He says, well, it can't be that big a problem because prices are declining. Well, he's assuming that it's only monopolization on the sell side, but obviously you can have a monopoly on the buy side. That's called monopsony power. And if you have all the power on the buy side, then the result you would think would be prices are going to be reduced. And we see that with the DOJ's challenge to the Penguin merger. There was a concern about monopsony power. Just because prices go down, if you're the buyer, that's exactly what you want as a monopoly.
So I'm assuming that the rest of you agree that the way the professor is describing what's going on in digital advertising, that this kind of complexity where so much of what happens is owned by, is controlled by entities like Google and Facebook. Do you agree that that's a pretty good description of what goes on? Yes. So what is it?
I don't agree, but well, I just want to respond very quickly to two things that were said. So first of all, Ms. Srinivasan said there is no market with this vertical integration. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, this is the stock exchange. It has the same features. Goldman Sachs represents buyers. It represents sellers. It owns exchanges where things are traded. I have a paper that I've submitted to the committee that's 54 pages that lays this out in detail. So you can take a look and see if I'm right or not. One other thing to respond to Professor Alford. This market seems strange because it has this vertical integration. It's not just about double margins on both sides. It's about economies of scale and network effects.
Okay,
if you were building an ad market from the ground up, you would make it centralized.
I am not looking for a debate among our the people testifying. I'm trying to clarify some things in my own mind. I understand that you have a very different perspective of what needs to happen. So okay, I have a question for Ms. Srinivasan. There was a nonprofit last year called the Center for Intimacy Justice, and they released a report alleging that Meta was systematically blocking advertisements about women's healthcare products on its platforms because it was classifying them as quote-unquote adult content. If there were many different digital advertisers, that would be less problematic, but Meta is a dominant player. So for Ms. Srinivasan, you've highlighted a number of problems with the dominance of a few platforms. What do you think about the idea that these platforms are gatekeepers of the advertising, who can decide what kinds of ads can be placed on their platforms? And will the America Act prevent that sort of thing from happening?
Thank you for the question. I guess we see It's a simple answer, but basically when we have more competition, two things happen. You have competition on price and you have competition on terms and conditions. And so if we fix competition, we would expect firms to start competing to be more intelligent about these types of decision-making that can be sloppy. So yes, I would expect the Act to address and fix that problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Hirono. Senator Blumenthal.